Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. Julius Caesar, Act 3, Scene 2. We have already gone through the very dramatic Scene 1, where the assassination of Julius Caesar takes place. And this is a scene, and this is the second most important scene in Act 3, in fact, the entire play, because this is the turning point. This is where Mark Antony is able to sway the crowd onto his side after Brutus has already delivered a fairly unemotional kind of a speech. So that's what we're going to study line by line, word by word explanation, like you can get nowhere else. Okay, so let's get started. But before I start, let me just share the PDF so that I can write my notes there. Okay, so before I start, I just want to tell you broadly the 5 to 6 thematic points of this scene, which you would note down in your notebook, and that would be helpful. It will also be helpful in understanding the scene that much better. Now, as I said, this is a key turning point in the play. It is a key turning point because, see, it's like this. It comes almost midway into the play. In the first half, we have seen the play being dominated by the conspirators, as it were. I mean, we know what they are planning to do, why they are planning to do, how Cassius kind of enlists the support of different conspirators, mainly Brutus, into his plot. So we have seen a lot of the conspirators culminating in the assassination of Caesar. We also have seen how Caesar himself seems to contribute to his own death, right? Because he has that sense of, oh, who can kill me? That sense of arrogance, right? Culminates in the assassination of Julius Caesar. Scene 2 is the turning point where the tide seems to turn, because from now onwards, it's about how Julius Caesar would be avenged by his best friend, Mark Antony. So you understand? So that's why this particular scene is what I'm calling a key turning point. Because Brutus initially gave what I call was a very logical and unemotional speech, and that was followed by Mark Antony, who is extremely cunning and manipulative. Please use all these words when you write your answers, because these are like words which kind of encapsulate what this scene is all about, what the character of Mark Antony and that of Brutus is all about. Now, Antony also demonstrates great power of oratory. He's a tremendous orator. The way he kind of builds it up, the way he kind of, and this is an important phrase, it just occurred to me, how he plays with the minds of the people. He plays with the minds of the people because he knows that at that point in time, they have been swayed by Brutus's unemotional speech, logical speech. They believe that Brutus and the others were right. And take them to the other side. How does Mark Antony achieve that? That's what this scene is all about. He does that by using a combination of intelligence, cunning, manipulation, and most importantly, a bit of sarcasm also. The whole tone and tenor, and I'll explain to you as we go along. Okay. Then the other important point is about how Mark Antony uses pathos, the use of pathos. That is, he himself kind of seems to be extremely overwhelmed, shedding tears, and that seems to move the people of Rome. He cleverly presents the facts and emotions in a way that he knows will appeal to the people of Rome. And he kind of plants doubts in the minds of the people whether they were really justified in killing Julius Caesar. And that kind of ends in an eruption of anger among the people, so much so that they are willing to wage civil war in Rome and target the conspirators in particular. So what we would see in scene 3 of Act 3 is the outbreak of civil war. That's a very short scene, but it kind of gives you a sense of how bloody these things can be when civil war and unrest actually breaks out. Okay, so let's get started. I hope you have got the overall understanding of what this scene is all about. We will be satisfied, let us be satisfied. So now here he is not talking about, the citizens are not saying this is happening at the forum, because we have seen in the previous scene everyone saying that let's go to the public place, the marketplace, where on a platform everyone will be addressed. So that's where Brutus and Cassius and all the other citizens are assembled. Citizens say, we will be satisfied, let us be satisfied. He's not satisfied does not mean santushti. He's saying that we demand answers. They are asking for answers, and let us be provided with answers. Give us the answers. That's what they want. So Brutus says, then follow me and listen to me. Give me audience means be my audience, listen to me. Okay, listen to me, friends. Cassius, you go to the other street so that we can divide this crowd. Both of us don't need to be here. You can give the reasons. I can present the reasons here. So you go to the next street so that we split the crowd. Part the numbers means we split the crowd. And those of you who would like to hear me speak, stay here. Those of you who would want to follow Cassius to the next street, go with him. And public reasons shall be rendered of Caesar's death. And we will explain the reasons for Caesar's death. Rendered means the reasons will be provided to you as to, because that's what they want. We want answers. So they say that both of us will do that at two different locations so that this crowd can be split. Clear? Great. The first citizen says, I will listen to what Brutus has to say. The second citizen says, I will listen to what Cassius has to say, and look at the intelligence. The second citizen says that then we will compare the reasons when we have heard them explaining separately, so that whether there is any difference in the or contradiction in the versions given by Brutus and Cassius at two different locations. Oh, Brutus said this. Oh, but Cassius said this. Is there a difference? So they want to match. So it shows a very aware and a very discerning kind of a Roman citizenry, that they are sharp about what they do. I mean, eventually we realize that they are not actually very sharp, but at least this line seems to indicate that they seem to know these basic kind of tenets of how they should, digest the news. Cassius exits with some of the citizens. Brutus goes into the pulpit. The third citizen says, noble Brutus is ascended, that he has climbed up. So silence. Brutus says, be patient till the last. That is, be patient until the end, until I have actually finished saying what I have to say. Romans, countrymen, and lovers. Now, lovers doesn't mean lovers in the literal sense. He's actually saying, dear friends. Okay, dear friends, hear me for my cause and be silent that you may hear. So he says that hear me out for my reasons, for my actions. That is, listen to me for what I have to say about what we just now did at the Senate, and be silent so that you can hear me. You can, so that in silence, so that everyone can hear what I have to say. Then he says, give me the honor of believing me. Don't immediately start hooting saying that, chal, we don't believe you. No, give me the honor of believing me. So he wants the Romans to believe every word that he has to say. And he says, have respect to. Have respect to means remember. And he says, remember my honor, because he's kind of trying to say that I have a particular stature in Roman society. So you need to remember that so that you may actually believe me. So he's trying to put himself at a pedestal to say that, I am of a particular stature in society, magistrate. So you need to kind of believe me. And then he says, at the same time, he says, censure me in your wisdom. That is, judge me with your wisdom. Use your mind, use your brain to judge what I have on the basis of what I have to say, using your wisdom, using your intelligence, and awake your senses that you may the better judge. And he says, and keep your minds alert so that you can judge me wisely. Okay, so that better judge means so that you can judge me wisely. And he says, keep your minds alert. Listen to me carefully. Keep your minds alert. Be quiet so that you can listen to every word. At the same time, be aware of what I am and my honor in society, right? I hope it's clear. Now, then he says, if there is anyone in this assembly of men, okay, who is a dear friend of Julius Caesar, to that person I say that Brutus's love for Caesar was not less than that person's love for Caesar. You understand? That I did not love Caesar any less than that person who says that Caesar was a great friend of his, a dear friend of his. If then that friend if then that friend wants to know, he asks, why did Brutus rose against means? Why did I rebel against Julius Caesar? Then this is my answer. Then this is the answer I would want to give to that person who says that Caesar was a dear friend of his. Clear? Great. Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. I want to tell that person, this is my answer, that I did not revolt against Caesar. I did not rise against Caesar because I did not love Caesar. It is only because I loved Rome much more. So he's trying to compare his love for Caesar with his love for Rome, and he says his love for Rome is much, much more than his love for Caesar. And then he says, had you rather Caesar were living and die all slaves than that Caesar were dead to live all free men? So he says that would you prefer that Caesar was alive and all of us were slaves? Or would you prefer that Caesar was dead and all of us were alive? So what he's doing is to present a choice between slavery and freedom. What would you prefer? So he's saying that if Caesar was alive, it would result in slavery for all men of Rome, including him and anyone who claims to be a dear friend of Caesar. On the other hand, if Caesar was dead, it would result in freedom for everyone involved. So this particular line is very important. Please mark it also from an examination point of view. In fact, this part of the passage is extremely important, and I hope you have understood the gist of what he really wants to convey. So he's trying to convey, he's presenting them an option that is this what you would want it. And that's why I decided to kill Julius Caesar along with the other conspirators. And then he says, as Caesar loved me, I weep for him. He loved me. The guy loved me, and I weep for the fact that he is no more. As he was fortunate, I rejoice at it. So he says, as he had so much of good fortune, I rejoice. I feel happy for that. As he was brave, valiant means brave, I honor him. But because he was ambitious, I killed him. So I killed him because he was ambitious. I killed him because his death would mean freedom for everyone in Rome. You understand? So he says that all these other qualities, I celebrated Julius Caesar. But because he was ambitious, he wanted to rule over all of us. That's why I decided to slay him. There is tears for his love, joy for his fortune, honor for his valor, and death for his ambition. So he's once again repeating that. So he says that there are tears for his love. The fact that, he loved me. There is joy for his fortune, his good luck. There is honor for his bravery and his courage. But there is death for his ambition. Who is here so base that would be a bondman? I want to know from all of you out here that who is here so wretched? Base means wretched. Who is here so wretched that he would want to be a bondman? Bondman means who would want to be a slave, who would not want freedom and liberty and independence. If there is anyone like that, speak up. Speak to me right now. Because that would mean If there is someone who wants to be a slave, it would mean that I have offended that person by killing Julius Caesar. By killing Julius Caesar, I have offended that particular person. That's what it means. So I would want that person to speak up. Who is here so rude? That would not be a Roman. He says that who is here so rude means uncivilized. Who is here so uncivilized? Who wouldn't want to be a proud Roman? You know, a Roman who feels happy about the fact that he is a free citizen. If there is any, speak up. So you see the way he is constructing his speech. He says, because that person also I have offended. Who is here so vile that will not love his country? He says that who is here? Vile means despicable, you know, evil. Evil, despicable, who will not love his country. If there is any, speak up, because that means I have offended that person. I will wait for a reply. I pause for a reply. Everyone says there is no one like that here, Brutus. That we kind of agree with what you are saying. Brutus says, then that means I have offended no one by killing Caesar. I have done no more to Caesar than you shall to Brutus. He says that I have done no more to Caesar that you would do to Brutus. You know, that there is nothing more that I have done. There's nothing wrong that I have done. The question of his death is enrolled in the Capitol, which means that the reasons for his death are mentioned in the official record. It's like an FIR kind of a thing. The reasons for his death are mentioned in the official records. They are recorded at the Capitol, and his glory, you know, his fame, glory, is the good deeds that he was known for, extenuated, which means they are not reduced. It's not as though we have said that he was a petty criminal who we have killed. No, we have recorded what he was renowned for and wherein he was worthy, nor his offenses enforced. Enforced means there his mistakes, like his ambition, they have not been exaggerated. You know, it's not as though we have only mentioned and exaggerated the mistakes for which we decided to kill him, for which he suffered death, right? So we have not kind of exaggerated that, nor have we reduced his glory and his good qualities, right? So what he is trying to say is that we have been extremely fair in our assessment of Julius Caesar after his death. At that point in time, Antony and others enter with Julius Caesar's body. We saw that at the end of scene 1, that he gets the servant to help him bring the body there. So that's what Antony does. So Caesar's body is now brought to the platform. Here comes his body, mourned by Mark Antony, who, though he had no hand in his death, shall receive the benefit of his dying, a place in the commonwealth, as which of you shall not. Now, what is he trying to say? He says, here comes the body of Julius Caesar, and it is mourned by his friend Mark Antony, who, I must point out, had absolutely no role to play in the killing, in the murder, in the assassination of Julius Caesar. But even though he did not have a role to play in the murder, he will benefit by the passing away of Caesar, because now he will have a place in the commonwealth, which means that a place means he will be a free citizen. He will be a free citizen in the commonwealth, as all of you will be. Each one of you will also be a free citizen. There will be nobody who will be a slave of any kind. With these words I depart, that as I slew my best lover for the good of Rome, lover again means friend, best friend, I have the same dagger for myself when it shall please my country to need my death. So he says, with these words, I depart from here, because as I killed my best friend for the good of Rome, I will keep the same dagger for myself. That what I will do is to keep the same dagger for myself with which I stabbed Julius Caesar, so that I can use it to kill myself in order to please my country. Whenever my country needs my killing, I can use the same dagger to kill myself. So that's what he is talking about. And in a way, it kind of foreshadows what will happen later. All live Brutus. So they all hail Brutus. They are very happy with what he had to say, with what they listen. So he says, let us triumphantly carry him to his home. Let us make a statue for him with his ancestors. Let him be Caesar. That is, let him take Caesar's place. And the fourth citizen says, Caesar's better parts shall be crowned in Brutus. That we shall crown Brutus because he has Caesar's better qualities, right? So Brutus says, my countrymen. And second citizen says, peace, peace, silence. Brutus is once again speaking. Brutus says, good countrymen, let me depart alone. Let me go out alone. And for my sake, stay here with Antony. Do grace to Caesar's corpse. That is, pay respects to the dead body of Julius Caesar and grace his speech. Respectfully listen. Grace means respectfully listen to Mark Antony's speech, tending to Caesar's glories. He will be talking about the glory of Julius Caesar, which Mark Antony, with our permission, is allowed to do so. He's allowed to make his speech here at the pulpit with our permission. So he's making clear the equations between them, that he needs to seek permission from Brutus and the other conspirators. So I do entreat you, not a man depart. I entreat you means I do request you that not one of you should actually move. Entreat means ask, request, whatever. Save I alone, accept me. Accept me. Till Antony speaks, none of you should go except me. Okay. And then Brutus exits from there. The first citizen says, stay ho, let us hear Mark Antony. So he says, let him go to the pulpit. We shall hear him. Noble Antony, go up. For Antony says, for Brutus' sake, I am beholding to you. Saying that for the sake of Brutus, I am indebted to each one of you. Right? That you are choosing to be here and listen to me. And he goes into the pulpit. Fourth citizen says, what does... And now the fourth citizen has only, in that whole noise, he has only heard the word Brutus. He's only heard Brutus's name being mentioned. And he asks the other citizen, the third citizen, what did he say about Brutus? So he says, for Brutus' sake, that he's indebted to all of us. The fourth citizen says, oh, well, good. He should not say anything negative about Brutus. So first citizen says, the Caesar, Julius Caesar, was a tyrant. Because you see, they're getting swayed by what Brutus had to say. So third citizen says, yes, that's certain. We are lucky. We are blessed that Rome is rid of him. We have kind of got rid of Julius Caesar. The second citizen says, silence. Let's hear what Antony has to say. Antony says, you gentle Romans. Citizen says, silence. Let's hear him. This line is, along with et tu Brutus, this is probably the most popular line of the play. Et tu Brutus, and then French Romans, gentle countrymen, lend me your ears. Now, many politicians and leaders and statesmen across the country, across the world, also have used this kind of a line later on in the 19th century, 18th century, etc. So he says, lend me your ears means give me your attention. Lend me your ears. He's not asking for your ears. He's saying, give me your attention. Okay. This is a very important passage, even from the examination point of view. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him, saying that I have come here for the funeral of Julius Caesar. I have not come here to praise him. The evil, whatever evil people do, men do, lives after them. People remember the evils that men do, even after they are dead and gone. However, the good that they do is often buried with their bones. No one remembers the good that they do, but the evil things that they did always stays on. People remember the negative qualities of a person or the negative deeds that a person often did. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus has told you that Caesar was ambitious. He wanted to achieve something more. If that was the case, it was a very, very serious fault. Grievous means it was a serious fault that if Caesar was indeed ambitious, wanted to achieve more than what he had, that was a serious fault. And that also means, and grievously had Caesar answered it, and Caesar has paid for it with his life. Grievously, he has seriously, what can be serious? He has paid for it with his life. Paid for it with his life means that he kind of lost his life. Why? Because he was ambitious, and that's a serious fault to have. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, what does he mean? What does this leave mean? Means here, with the permission of Brutus and the rest, because Brutus is an honorable man. He's constantly praising him, and this word will keep coming on, honorable. He means that he's someone who is respected. He's a respectable citizen of Rome. So Brutus is an honorable man. Come I, so they are all of them, all the conspirators, they're actually honorable men. Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. That is, with their permission, with the permission of all these honorable men, Brutus and the rest, I come here to speak at Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. Okay, just to me means he was true to me, right? He was true to me. So he's talking about the relationship they had, the friendship they had. But Brutus says he was ambitious. And Brutus is an honorable man. So you see, he's saying something and constantly padding up by saying something good about Brutus. But it seems, you would realize that there is a tinge of sarcasm in the way he keeps on repeating, you are a good man. You are a good student. You are a good student. Of course you are a good student. I repeat this a dozen times. By the 8th time, you would think, sir, you really mean so? Or are you being a little sarcastic, right? You would get that doubt. Same thing he's going to do. He's going to keep on repeating. And Brutus is an honorable man. So you get a doubt. Where is the need for him to repeat it so many times? He had brought many captives home to Rome. He says Julius Caesar fought many battles. Now in battles, what happens is when you win a war, the rival armies' soldiers are taken as prisoners of war. In modern day parlance, it is referred to as POW, right? So captives is referring to the prisoners of war. And in order to return in those times, of course, now what happens is some kind of treaty between two countries, etc. What used to happen at that point in time was that you had to pay a ransom money in order to get your soldiers who are captive, prisoners of war, freed. So, and that would add more money to your coffers. Coffers means the wealth of Rome, the exchequer of Rome. So Julius Caesar actually helped increase the wealth of Rome. Did Caesar appear ambitious by doing so? Because he was doing it for the sake of Rome. How is Caesar ambitious if he's trying to increase the wealth of Rome? That's what Antony is posing a question. He's putting that in the minds of people. Brutus says that Caesar was ambitious and Brutus is an honorable man. But this is what Caesar did. Does this indicate ambition? Question mark. You realize how Antony is proceeding? Because what Brutus has done is by labeling Caesar as ambitious, by labeling Caesar as someone whose rule would result in slavery for everyone, he has damned Caesar. He has been very critical and painted Caesar as a negative kind of a persona. What Antony is doing is to present the arguments on the other side, but because he's being able to do this with the permission of Brutus, Cassius, and the others, so he has to tread extremely carefully. So he's doing this, kadam phuk ke rakh raha hai. He's doing this extremely carefully so that he does not, I'm sure, there would be Brutus' spies listening to him out there, who would report back saying that, you gave him permission, but listen how he swayed the crowd against you. So he's not doing that overtly. He's doing that covertly by kind of being extremely careful in the manner in which he's swaying the crowd. So this is step number one. Then he says, when that the poor hath cried, Caesar hath wept. That whenever the poor people of Rome cried, Caesar also shed tears along with them. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. But I mean, you call him ambition, but an ambitious person would be a more stern kind of person, not the kind of person who would shed tears for the poor people. But then Brutus calls him an ambitious person, and Brutus is an honorable man. That's what he says, right? Then he says, you all, please note down in terms of points, the way I'm explaining it, 1, 2. If you do that, it makes it so much easier. Question answer ke liye, I'm telling you now, please do not buy any kind of question bank. Okay, I will provide you with the success test papers. Point number 2, don't be workbook obsessed. I find this obsession among students, especially class 9 and 10, with the workbook nauseating. And I'll say why I'm using a strong word like nauseating, because in your board examinations, nowhere, I repeat, nowhere will you get a question which is taken from the workbook. The kind of questions that you would be asked in the board examinations will be absolutely different. So you need to train your mind. And step 1 for that would be this: to understand every line, understand the thinking behind the characters of Mark Antony and Brutus. And once you do that, the way I'm explaining it, it will be a walk in the park for you. You will find it very easy. So please do not be workbook obsessed. Okay. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. So then he reminds him of what happened during the Lupercal, which we saw in Act 1, Scene 2, if I remember right. Yeah. So he says that when on the Lupercal, I offered Caesar the royal crown 3 times. And all 3 times he refused. Was that ambition? Wouldn't an ambitious person who wants to go up the ladder, wouldn't he say, हाँ मेरे को राजा बना रहे हो, मैं ले लेता हूँ. आप में से कोई किसी को बोलेंगे कि you are going to be made the head boy of your school or the head girl of your school. Would you say, no, I don't want it, right? You would be. If you don't, that would mean you're not ambitious. But if you do, it would show that you are ambitious. Caesar refused. So how is he going to be called as ambitious by Brutus? That's what he's asking. He's raising these questions and making and forcing and compelling and nudging the people of Rome to use their mind and think, which they have not. Though Brutus said, use your minds to think, use your wisdom to think, they actually did not use their minds. Now Mark Antony is compelling them कि सोचो भाई, ऐसे कैसे विश्वास कर लिया उस पे? How did you believe every word of what he said? Think about it. The instances that I'm telling you, does that in any way indicate that Julius Caesar was ambitious, for which he was killed? Now, he says, I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke. Now, he's trying to tread carefully, cautiously. He says, I am not here to refute. Disprove means I'm not here to contradict, refute, or contradict what Brutus spoke. But I am here to speak about what I know, because Caesar was my friend. You all did love Caesar at one point in time. Remember Act 1, Scene 1? All of you loved Caesar at one point in time. And you had reasons, not without cause. You had reasons to love him. What cause withholds you now? What is it? What has changed that stops you from mourning for Caesar's death? What has changed? And then he says, O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts. So he says, you have escaped. Fled means judgment, means they are not using their minds. They are not using their sense of judgment. So you have escaped, which means that they don't have sense of judgment. So it has escaped to brutish beasts. Brutish beasts means evil beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me means I apologize for the outburst because I'm getting emotional. So please bear with me. Please, I'm sorry for this outburst. So kind of apologize for this outburst. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar. You know, my heart is out there. My heart is bleeding for my friend Caesar, who is no more. And I must pause till my heart comes back to me. Because my heart is there. That's why I'm speaking with so much of emotion, raw emotion. First citizen. Now the first ploy has worked. So the first citizen, and frankly speaking, there isn't anything wrong really in what he said. First citizen says, well, I think there is a lot of sense in what he says. Much reason means I think what he's saying does make sense. If thou consider rightly of the matter, Caesar has had great wrong, that he suffered. If you think correctly, he actually seems to have suffered a wrong. What was done to Caesar was not right. Third citizen says, has he masters? I fear there will be worse come in his place. That there will be someone who will be worse than Caesar. Who will come. Now, it seems to indicate that he does not think highly of Caesar, but the person who will take his place would be worse than him. Fourth citizen, marked you his words, he would not take the crown. Therefore, it is certain he was not ambitious. So he said, did you listen to what he said at the end? That he did not take the crown during the Lupercals. That means that he was not ambitious. First citizen says that if it be found so, that if it is found that he was indeed not ambitious, someone will have to pay the price for it. Pay heavily. Dear abide it means someone will have to pay heavily for this, means will have to face the consequences. Okay. Second citizen, poor soul, his eyes are red as fire with weeping. Look at Mark Antony. His eyes are red because he's been crying. There is not a more noble person in Rome than Mark Antony. So they're all kind of getting swayed by Mark Antony. Fourth citizen say, now listen to him. Be quiet because he's once again speaking. Mark Antony's second speech. One of the reasons why I discontinued the courses was, there were many reasons, and I don't want to go into it because that would mean being a little negative. But I really wish, there are some students who tend to be extremely negative, toxic. And I saw no reason for that, for the sake, as someone with self-respect, and I'm sure you would also agree, I'm sure your parents would agree, that I don't think any person with self-respect will have those kind of things said to him or her just because someone pays some 1,500 rupees for a period of 12 to 13 months. Which works out to be some 100 rupees change. And I don't think anyone can give anyone that right. I don't think that's on. So I do completely agree that if I had done this as a course, and I'm not, see, for me, it's like this, whether I do the video as part of the course or whether I do it on YouTube, the quality will be the same. The quality will be the same for the simple reason that it is my brand. It's brand Sudhir. So when I do it, it has to be of the top quality. Like when I write my political columns, someone for the political column would give me X amount of money. Another publication, another website may give me another amount of money. But it does not mean that if A is paying less and B is paying more, I will write a superior piece for B. No. It is coming from me with my byline. So it is mandatory for me that my quality remains the same. It does not make a difference whether person X pays one amount and person X pays 2 times the amount. Does not matter. My quality is what matters. So the quality of the videos will be absolutely the same. Yes, I would not be providing the notes because that's another story. And I thought I was quite dismayed by how theft seems to be quite acceptable even by people who call themselves sir and big teachers, including 2 big YouTubers. I was quite dismayed as how in an extremely clandestine manner they actually steal someone else's content, and I feel extremely dismayed and disillusioned. And English notes, it's not like, I look up some book and just keep copying from there. I make my own notes. I write my own question and answers. I mean, you would be surprised. And that's why I say, I always believe that there needs to be vitamin G. Vitamin G, I believe, vitamin gratitude. I still remember there was one poem by Sarojini Naidu, The Tombs of Hyderabad, if I remember right. It was in the Telangana Intermediate Board. And it was a very complex poem. You know who I reached out to? It's been more than 30 years since I passed out of college. I reached out to my professor in college, and she sent me the explanation for each of the stanzas. And I was teaching my daughter, and she said, wow, it was great quality. And I'm able to do so. Why? Because I have maintained that contact even 3 decades after passing out of college. I really believe relationships are important. And I find it very, very surprising. Students who don't think twice before. Just because you've paid someone does not make that person your slave. And I thought that mindset was nauseating. And I thought it's okay for me not to do any more courses. So you are paying for the sins of your previous batch. I don't like to say this, but that's precisely what happened. And it was completely put off. And pretty much in October, November itself, I decided that this is going to be my last batch. I will not do any more courses. And, anyway, let's not have this negative thing. I want to be positive. I will teach everything in great detail. You will not need any other help. Please do not invest in this workbook, that workbook. You will not need it. Entire literature, entire history, entire civics, entire English language, entire geography, and biology, I will try. I'm not promising, because I also have CBSE 10th, 11th, 12th. I have Maharashtra 11th and 12th. Plus, there are some other plans. Plus, this is election season. So, it becomes very difficult. I'm doing this in the middle of the election season, where I have to write 2 columns every day. So, please bear with me, and please don't keep saying, ye dal do, wo dal do. Whenever I'm getting time, I'm doing this. It takes a lot of effort. Okay, let's get back to this. Now, but yesterday the word of Caesar might have stood against the world. Now lies he there, and none so poor to do him reverence. So what he's saying is that just yesterday, till yesterday, no one would have dared to go against the word of Caesar. The word of Caesar means that no one would have stood against the commands of Caesar. That if Caesar said something, no one would have dared to defy him and say that, no, I will not do what you're saying or what you're ordering, right? But look at him now. He lies there, and none is so humble. Poor means humble. And no one is so humble enough to pay him respect. Reverence means respect. That no one is humble enough to pay homage, to pay their last respects to the dead Julius Caesar. So he's being a touch sarcastic here. He's trying to poke at the conscience of the people, because he may have overheard what they were saying. So he's trying to poke them. Okay, no one is humble enough to pay respects for this guy. Till yesterday, no one would have dared to defy the commands of Julius Caesar. O masters, if I were disposed to stir your hearts and minds to mutiny and rage, I should do Brutus wrong. So he says, but masters means, oh sirs, he's referring to them respectfully. Sirs, if I were disposed, that is, if I were trying to incite, okay, to stir your minds, if I was trying to incite your hearts and minds to rebel, okay, if I was trying to get you guys to revolt and rebel and get angry, rage means to get angry, I would be doing a huge wrong to Brutus, because he's the one who gave me permission to speak at the pulpit. And Cassius, who you all know are honorable men. So I will not do any wrong to Brutus and Cassius. I rather choose to wrong the dead. Instead, what I will do is to wrong the dead, wrong myself, and wrong all you guys instead of wronging those honorable men. So he's being extremely sarcastic, very clever with the way he's kind of putting it. But here is a parchment with the seal of Caesar. Now he's showing up a paper, okay, with the royal seal, mohr of Caesar. He found it in his private chamber. Closet means private chamber. This is his will. Will, you know, it's a legal document which people make, which is to be read after the person is dead and gone to his children, to his extended family, to say that this person, after in his will, has left his house to the eldest son, his wealth to his daughter, to the jewelry to the granddaughter, it's XYZ kind of thing. I'm just giving an example. So that's the will. So Caesar has actually left a will. He says, let but the commons hear this testament. So he says that if the common people were to hear this will, if they hear this will, which, pardon me, I'm not planning to read, but if the common people actually, now it's like this, you see, I have checked all the answer scripts, but I will tell you the marks only next week. What will be your reaction before your teacher? You will say, no, sir, no, ma'am. Has anyone failed? What is the highest mark you have given? How many students have got above 90? You will ask, right? So he's just trying to make them curious. He's saying there is a will which Caesar has left. I found it in his private chamber, but I have no intention of reading it out to you now. So he's making them curious because he knows they would want to know. Batao na, batao na. So he says, he doesn't say batata hu. He says, and they would go and kiss dead Caesar's wounds. That if you come to know what he wrote in his will, you would actually go and kiss the wounds of the dead Caesar and dip your napkins in his sacred blood, your handkerchiefs in his sacred blood. And then you will beg to have a hair of his, from his body, from his head, for your memory. Ki ek baal de do, we would keep it as memory of Julius Caesar. And then when the commoners would die, they would have left it. They would have mentioned it in their will that we are leaving the handkerchief and the hair as we are bequeathing it. That is, we are leaving it for our descendants because it is a valuable, precious treasure. So we are leaving it for our descendants. So that's how you will behave if I told you what he has written in his will. Predictably enough, the fourth citizen says, we will hear the will. Read it, Mark Antony. The will, we will hear Caesar's will. Antony says, have patience, gentle friends. I must not read it. It is not meet you know how Caesar loved you. He says, it is not proper for you. Meet means it's not proper. It is not proper for you to know how Caesar loved you. Because you are not wood, you are not stones, but you are men. And being men, bearing the will of Caesar, it will inflame you. Okay, it is not proper for you to know how Caesar loved you, how much Caesar loved you, because you are not wood, you are not inanimate objects, you are not stones, you are men. And being men, it would anger you. Inflame you means if you come to know about the will, it will anger you tremendously, inflame you. It will make you mad. You'll go crazy. Bapre, he wrote this and they killed him. It will make you extremely agitated. It is good you know not that you are his heirs. So he says it's better that you do not know that you are his heirs, that you have inherited something from Julius Caesar. Heirs means people who get something in inheritance. For if you should, what would come of it? Because if you did know, just imagine what would happen. What would come of it? Just imagine what would happen if you came to know that you are his inheritors. Fourth citizen says, read the will, we will hear it, Antony. You will read the will to us, Caesar's will. Antony says, will you be? The fourth citizen seems to be, someone who is very impatient. Antony says, will you be patient? Will you stay a while? I have overshot myself to tell you of it. I fear I wronged the honorable men whose daggers have stabbed Caesar. I do fear it. So he says, will you be patient? Will you stay a while? You know, Hindi में बोलते हैं धीरज रखो. He says, I have spoken more than what I intended to. Overshot means I have spoken, overspoken, or rather, spoken more than I should have or I intended to. I fear that I have wronged the honorable men whose daggers stabbed Caesar. I fear that I have. That is, they gave me the permission, but I spoke more than what I should have. So in that sense, I have done something wrong to the honorable men. But this time he adds something. He says, the honorable men whose daggers killed Caesar. So he's gently turning the knife. Okay, it's an idiom. They were traitors. So now look at the first time. It's beginning to have an effect. Yes, the fourth citizen says they were traitors. They were traitors. The people who you call honorable men, they were actually traitors. I mean, that's why there is an exclamation mark. It's almost like, honorable men, they were traitors. All of them say, please read out the will, the testament. Same thing, will, testament. Second citizen says, they were villains, murderers. The will, read the will. Antony says, you will compel me then to read the will? You're compelling me, you're putting pressure on me, you're forcing me to read the will? Then make a circle around the corpse of dead body of Caesar and let me show you him that made the will. Let me show you the person who wrote that will. Let me show you the person who actually wrote the will. So shall I come down and will you give me permission to come down? Leave to come down. By now you should be knowing all this. Okay. Several citizens, come down, descend. You shall have permission. Antony comes down. The fourth citizen says, let's make a ring. The fourth citizen seems to be some kind of a ringleader, right? The first citizen says, stand from the hearse, stand from the body. That is, maintain some kind of distance from the coffin. Hearse means, hearse hi bolte hain, pronunciation, the coffin. Stand away from the body. Second citizen says, room for Antony. That is, make some space for Antony. Antony says, don't press so much against me. Kind of stand some distance away. Don't, mere upar mat kudo. Mere upar, don't push me. Several citizens, stand back. Room. Room means create space. Bear back means move back. Antony says, if you have tears, prepare to shed tears right now. You all do know this mantle. Mantle ka matlab, the cloak, the overcoat kind of thing, which those times the nobles would wear. I remember the first time Caesar put it on. So he's talking about his own relationship with Caesar. He says, I remember the first time that Caesar actually wore this particular cloak, mantle. It was on a summer evening in his tent. That day he overcame the Nervi. So he says that was the day he overcame, means he defeated the Nervi soldiers, the Nervi army. He's referring to one particular battle. Look, in this place ran Cassius' dagger through. And at this place in the cloak, that's where Cassius has stabbed him and his dagger has gone through. So there is a hole, right? And there is a wound. See what a rent the envious Casca made. He says, see the tear in the cloak that jealous Casca, envious means jealous, Casca has made. So he's kind of, when you're using Casca, you can always use this particular adjective for him. Okay. He says, through this, showing another hole, the well-beloved Brutus stabbed. He's using a positive adjective for Brutus, well, knowing very well that he has managed to kind of change it. But from his side, he's not saying anything wrong about them. He's provoking them to say it, but he will not say it at this point in time. He says, and as he plucked the cursed steel away, cursed steel is referring to the dagger. The dagger is made of steel, right? So he's talking about the cursed because that's what resulted in the death of Caesar. Mark how the blood of Caesar followed it. And when he kind of pulled it out, the blood of Caesar gushed out. as rushing out of doors, as though it was kind of the door had been opened and all the blood was coming out of his body. To be resolved if Brutus so unkindly knocked or not, or no. So he says, it is as if the blood wanted to make sure, wanted to check that it was Brutus who had in a very unkind manner knocked at the door. So he's kind of using here, he's using the use of as, he's using a simile, but he's also using it, the blood is almost like personified, as if it is coming out to see whether it is Brutus who was the one who had knocked at the door to get the blood to come gushing out. So it's a use of simile as well as personification of blood as a literary device. So he says for Brutus, because Brutus, was Caesar's angel. Angel as in, he's saying favorite companion. So he's trying to emphasize the fact that Brutus was a friend who stabbed him in the back, who kind of, dhoka diya, who betrayed him, treachery, treason. Judge, O you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him. So he says that, O gods, how dearly Caesar loved him. You need to know, you can judge. This was the most unkindest cut of all. Now, this was the most unkindest means this was the most cruel. Look at how he's using most unkindest. So it's what he's using is called a double superlative in order to emphasize. Otherwise, you will say most unkind or you will just say unkindest. But he's using a double superlative. For when the noble Caesar saw him stab, because when Caesar saw Brutus stabbing, now you may always wonder how did he know he was not there, but we will give Shakespeare the benefit of doubt for that. Because when Caesar, the noble Caesar, saw Brutus stabbing him, ingratitude more strong than traitor's arms quite vanquished him. Quite ironical that I just now was talking to you about gratitude and vitamin G. So he says that when Caesar saw Brutus stab, it was Brutus's ingratitude more than the weapons of the traitors that completely defeated him, that completely conquered him, right? Vanquished him is that completely demolished, conquered Julius Caesar. That his ingratitude, that lack of gratitude of Brutus, that killed him much more than all the weapons of the traitors. Jitne bhi बाकी लोगों के daggers थे, much more than that, the ingratitude of Brutus is what stabbed him. I'm feeling like Julius Caesar, pretty much so, because it was, I don't want people to be grateful, but I just want people to be decent about things. And I think that's something which everyone, your parents, your teachers, and anyone even you, if you have done something good for someone, you would expect that other person to be thankful to you, grateful to you, or at least have a sense of, oh, when I needed something, that person helped me. Wouldn't you want like that? And I think that is unfortunately lacking. And I always tell my students, at least, my core students always used to say, in YouTube, I will not have that kind of a rapport. Always try to be a good human being, because there is huge power in being a good human being. Trust me, there's huge power in being a good human being. Because when you are positive yourself, you attract a lot of positive energy, If you do something wrong to somebody, trust me, karma is something which will always come back to hit you in the same manner. It will come back to hit you in the same manner. Oh, hisab, no, there is someone up there who is a fantastic chartered accountant who keeps, in the balance sheet, they kind of this thing, ki, ये अच्छा काम किया है, ये बुरा काम किया है, इस बुरे काम का हिसाब इसी जिंदगी में देना पड़ेगा. So don't do anything wrong to anyone. Just do the good things. It will come back to you with interest. With compounded interest, it will come back to you. Trust me, there is a lot of power in doing good to people, in thinking good about people, being positive to people. Even to say, it should never, if someone is doing better than you, don't think that, that person should come down. I wish that person should fail. No. Think that I should do as good as that person. There must be something better that he's doing than me, which I should look to emulate. Trust me, if you Fill yourself with this kind of a positive energy, with a sense of gratitude for people. Even if it is someone who you're thirsty, someone gives you a bottle of water, have that sense of gratitude. He's giving you the nectar of life. If someone holds the door for you, or you're carrying too many things, someone says that, okay, let me help you carry some of your stuff, thank that person, because that person need not have done that. But he's doing it because he also wants to feel good that I helped somebody. Do that to 3 other people. It's a great feeling. You will think in my beach mein I become a Sadguru. Sadguru is a great personality. I met him Jan 2023 at Coimbatore. Okay, where was I? Yeah. Then burst his mighty heart. That's what burst his mighty heart. The heart of Caesar being described as mighty, that's what burst his mighty heart. And in his mantle, muffling up his face, the cloak which kind of covered his face, even at the base of Pompey's statue where he lay, right, inside the Senate, which all the while ran blood, great Caesar fell, right? Which all the while ran with blood, that whole place was a bloody mess, great Caesar fell. Oh, what a fall was there, my countrymen. Then I and you and all of us fell down. Then all of us fell down while bloody treason flourished over us. While bloody treason means talking about the treachery, flourished over us, because they are the ones who are feeling happy, right? So with the fall of Caesar, what he's trying to say is that with the fall of Caesar, you, I, all of us have also fallen down. We've all fallen down along with the fall of Caesar, because Caesar did not deserve this ingratitude. He did not deserve this lack of gratitude, which hurt him, which burst his mighty heart much more than all those weapons made of steel. That's what he's trying to say. So he says, the dint of pity. Oh, now you weep, and I perceive you feel the dint of pity. So he says that now all of you are weeping, and I can see you are weeping. And I know, I can see that you feel the pain. The dint means the pain of pity. So he says, these are honorable drops, the tears in your eyes. He says, kind, gracious means honorable. Kind souls, what? Weep you when you but behold. So he says, kind souls, what? Do you weep only when you see Caesar's wounded cloak? You will weep only when you see these wounds? Look you here. Here he is himself marred, as you see, with traitors. He says, look at his body, which has been mutilated by these traitors. And for the first time, he uses the word traitors instead of honorable. That's a big change. They have said villains and traitors. Now Antony uses the word traitors instead of honorable men, because he realizes that he has managed to change the mind of the people, of the citizens of Rome. So he says, look at these wounds. They are mutilated. Mutilated means marred. Mutilated means, that whole body of Caesar has been stabbed so many times. It's so bloody and opening up like doors, right? So he says, so he lifts Caesar's cloak. The first citizen says, oh, what a sad sight, piteous spectacle, which means what a sad sight, what a sad day. Oh, traitors, villains, most bloody sight. We will take revenge. We will be revenged means we will take revenge. Revenge about, now what do you say? Let's go. Let's find them. Let's burn them. Let's kill them. Let's slay them means butcher them. Let not a traitor live. So he has managed to push them into a state of civil war and revolt against the conspirators, the traitors. Stay, countrymen. He says, wait. So they say, okay, let's hear what he has to say. We will hear him. We will follow him. We will die with him. And look what a contrast it is. If you get these kind of lines, you will know. You need to always contrast it to how they behaved. Even with Brutus, they wanted to carry him and celebrate him in triumph to his house. So these guys always public. If it's a great orator, the great orator can always sway the public with the power of his or her oratory. So the public always has to think, yes, great orator, but easy speaking the truth, because great orators sometimes, using the power of their speech, also speak a lot of lies. So you need to be able to kind of separate the chaff from the wheat, as they say. So that's very important. Brutus, they got swayed. But Mark Antony also, in a very manipulative way, even though he's speaking the truth, he's able to convince them about what he has to say about Julius Caesar's death and the manner of his killing. Good friends, sweet friends, let me not incite you up to such a sudden flood of mutiny. Let me not kind of make you revolt that they have done this deed are honorable, that the people who have done this are honorable. Again, he's being a little sarcastic. What private griefs they have, alas, I know not. So he says that the people who did this are honorable men. However, what private griefs, as in what personal grudges, they may have some kundak, some grudge against Caesar, personal grudges they had against Caesar, I don't know about. So then he says that made them do it. They are wise and honorable and will no doubt with reasons answer you. That the guys who did this are wise and honorable and they will give you the reasons why they did what they did. I do not come to steal away your loyalty. Hearts means I am not coming here to make you disloyal to Brutus, Cassius and the rest. I'm no orator as Brutus is. I'm not as good an orator, not as good a speaker as Brutus is. But all you know, I am a plain, blunt man, means someone who speaks his mind, someone who loved his friend. I loved my friend Caesar, and that's what makes me speak the way I am speaking. And that they know full well. They gave me public leave to speak of him, and they are aware of this, and they gave me permission. Those who gave me permission to speak about Caesar know this fact very well, that I am a plain, blunt man who loved his friend, right? For I have neither wit means intelligence, nor words, the power of oratory. Okay, wit, the power of oratory, nor worth means nor the reputation that someone like a Brutus has, nor the kind of body language, nor the eloquence, that is the articulation, the power of articulation, nor the power of speech to be able to incite men. I only speak right on. I tell you which yourselves do know. Show you sweet Caesar's wounds, poor dumb mouths. Okay, so he's saying that I only say what I think and what you already know. I will show you sweet Caesar's wounds, those poor speechless mouths, and ask them to speak for me. That Caesar's wounds, which have opened up, they're almost like, because they're red in color, they're almost like poor mouths, but they cannot speak, so they are dumb, they are speechless. They are like speechless mouths because they cannot articulate. Okay, the wounds of Julius Caesar, and bid them to speak for me. So this is very strange because he's saying they are dumb, but he's also saying that let them speak for me, which is a contradiction in terms. But were I Brutus and Brutus Antony, that if I was Brutus and Brutus was Antony, right, then that Antony would kind of incite you. And he would put a tongue in every wound of Julius Caesar, and that would make every stone of Rome to rise up in rebellion and revolt. So that's what he's saying, that if it was Brutus, if Brutus was Antony, he would incite each one of you to rebel against the traitors and the conspirators. So he's kind of, this is a very important line, very powerful line. So he's saying that's what Brutus would have done that. So agar Brutus ne kiya hota, to kya theek hota? So that means if Brutus, who has been describing as an honorable man, he did something like this, he would do this. So that means it is the right thing to do, to rise up in mutiny. So everyone says we will revolt. We will burn the house of Brutus. Yes, let's go and search for the conspirators. Antony says, "Abhi meri kahani, abhi picture abhi baki hai. Listen to me. Peace ho. Let's listen to him." He says, "Why you go to do what you know? Sorry, why friends you go to do you know not what?" So he says, "You do not know what you're doing. You do not know what you're doing. Wherein hath Caesar thus deserved your love?" So he says, what has Caesar done to deserve your love? So now he's making them a little emotional. So he says, "Alas, you don't know. So I must tell you, you have forgotten about the will I told you about." एक टाइम पे तो तुम विल 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 बोल रहे थे. ओके, अभी तुमको विल याद नहीं है. मैं विल के बारे में बताता हूं. मैंने बोला नहीं बताऊंगा, बट मैं भी बताता हूं. आई विल टेल यू अबाउट द विल. Right? So he says, "Let me tell you about the will. What has Caesar done to deserve your love?" He says, "Ha, let's listen about the will." They come across as such bewkoof लोग. So he shows them the will. He says, "This is having Caesar's seal," so which means it's a legitimate, original, reliable document. He says to every Roman citizen, ये Photoshop करके नहीं आया हूं मैं. To every Roman citizen, he gives to every several man 75 drachmas. This is silver coins. I hope I pronounced this correctly. I didn't check. So he says in his will, he has said that to every Roman citizen, he will give 75 silver coins. So everyone says, "Oh, most noble Caesar. देखो, फोकट में पैसा मिले, everybody is very happy." He says, "We will take revenge for his death. O royal Caesar." Antony says, "Listen to me with patience. Moreover, he has left all his walks, his private arbors." Arbors is the gardens. Okay, where he has also the orchards, the fruit orchards or the flower orchards, whatever, where he goes for walks in order to relax. On this side of the Tiber River, he has left them you to all your heirs forever, common pleasures. Okay, so basically what he has done is to leave all the public gardens. Common pleasures means the public gardens. The private arbors are his private gardens. Okay, to walk abroad and recreate, for all of you to relax. So for the good of Rome. Here was a Caesar. This was Caesar. Here was a Caesar. Where will there be another Caesar? Can there be another Caesar? Look at how noble he is. Left you some money, left you all his property for you to enjoy. Never, never. Come away, come away. We will burn his body in the holy place, and with the brands fire the traitor's house. That is, we will burn his body in the holy place, in the sacred temples of Rome. Those are also called the sacred temples of Rome. And with the same fire, we will set fire to the houses of the traitors. So let's take up the body. Let's fight the fire. He says, plug down the benches. That is, get some benches for wood in order to light the fire. Plug down forms, windows, anything. That is, any window sills, anything, and the citizens leave with the body. Antony says, "Now let it work. Mischief thou art afoot. Take thou what course thou wilt." Now he's speaking to himself. No one is around. So he says, "Now let it work." Now let it work means abhi maza aega. Abhi maza shuru hone do. Okay, let it start. Trouble you have begun. Mischief means trouble you have begun. Take thou what course thou wilt means take any form as you will. Mischief has started, trouble has started. Take any form. It can be arson, it can be murder, it can be rioting, whatever. Take any form that it will, and we'll see that in scene 3. At that time, a servant enters. He says, "What's up, my man?" So Octavius has already come to Rome. He says, "Where is he?" He and Lepidus are at Caesar's house. So he says, "Then I will go straight to visit him." He comes upon a wish, which means that he has come just as I wished. I wished for him to come. Fortune is merry. Fortune is very happy today. And in this mood, it is likely to give us anything. So Fortune is referred to, is like Lady Fortune. So she's in a good mood today. And when she's in a good mood, she's likely to give us anything, that we would want to have. So servant said, "I heard him say Brutus and Cassius are read like madmen through the gates of Rome." So he gives him a piece of information. So he says that I heard Octavius say that Brutus and Cassius rode their horses. He's talking about the horses, that they were on horseback. They rode their horses like madmen to escape through the gates of Rome. So they have fled Rome because probably they have come to know of what happened here. So he says that they probably received warning. Notice means warning, that they had some warning. Somebody must have told them what has happened here of the people, how I had moved them. How I had moved them means how I had incited, how I had stirred the people of Rome. And he says, take me to Octavius. Okay, so with this, I come to the end of this longish scene, Act 3, Scene 2. I hope I have done justice to it. I hope it's all very clear as to what transpires in the scene, what are the motivations in the scene, especially that of Mark Antony, before that for a brief file of Brutus, and what kind of impression you get about the citizens of Rome as conveyed through the four citizens. So I hope this is clear, and God bless you. Share the video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and support the channel. Thank you very much. Tata.